Did you know or were you in denial that I was on drugs?
I think I was in denials.
Over the time that I was turning, into my young adulthood, into my 20s, did you have any hint that your son was selling drugs and living a lifestyle like that?
No, you were an artist. You always drew very nicely, and you were very creative.
Did you have any clue that I was doing lots of drugs?
No.
When the police raided your house because of the activities I was involved in, did you have any idea or know how bad I was?
No, unfortunately, I was so blind. Didn't know that when someone is on drugs, they can promise you, they can lie, they can steal, they can do those things. Now I know those things. I didn't know.
Sometimes I make mistakes in my life. Life goes on and on and on and on and on. Yeah. Hey, I got wisdom from my papa. He ain't have a lot of money, but he taught me how to keep the perfect posture. So folding under pressure, that ain't something that I'm about to. Crabs in the barrel, I'm just trying to be a lobster. I hit my cousin, told him to call. It's been 12 years and I ain't heard from him at all. Had a little fallout over some money. Damn, ain't it funny how the smartest people be beefing like they some dummies? But I hope you doing swell now. Hope your family well now.
Welcome to Primary Purpose with Pej. I'm your host. Today, we have one of the most powerful, meaningful conversations with a guest who would be my mom. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Mom Zora June is my hero. She's been through thick and thin with me. She watched me battle addiction for many, many years. She's seen me in my most traumatic phases of my life. I felt compelled to bring her on here because there's a few other people that I wanted to have come on here, but they have passed away recently, and so I totally regret that. So who better than to bring on my mom and go through my story, but actually go through her story, which led up to how I even was conceived and brought about and then raised, and why I went down such a dark rabbit hole. I think a lot of people can learn from this, both from the Persian community and from any community, because mom is definitely a woman that helps a lot of people, parents, and even people that are in addiction or coming straight out of addiction that are newly sober. So here we go. Let's take this journey. Okay, welcome to the show, Mom Zora June. Good to have you on here finally.
Thank you for having me.
I was already wanting to have you on here for a long time. I very much regret not having Siamak and a few other people that were instrumental in my path to getting better. So I thought, what better than to have Mama here? Let's hear about you, Mom. Let's hear a little bit about your story, about who you are, where you grew up, all that stuff. And then we'll get into the questions.
Well, I was born in Iran, and I was sent to Germany as a teenager, went to school there, and went to physical therapy school. And then I met your dad. We got married, and you were born. You were born, and then after 4 years, your sister was born. And then we were decided at that time, it was still at Shah's time in Iran. And they came from Iran, from Shah's side. They came and they hired all the medical professionals, which I was one of them, to go back to Iran and help over there, which I really loved. I always wanted to go back and help my people there. So since your dad was in the middle of his PhD, he was double majoring on PhD. So we decided that I would go with you and your sister. At that time, you were about 4.5. Your sister was only 6 months old. To go there, and so your dad would have time for himself to finish his PhD. So that's what we did, and I went there. It was one of the worst part of my life. as soon we got there, first of all, both of you guys, you got sick, Gila got sick, and both of you guys ended up in the hospital. And I was going around, even though I was hired, and I was promised a lot of things for the whole family, especially for you guys. At that time, you couldn't speak Farsi; you spoke only German, and I was promised that you can go to a German school over there. But then I found out that those schools, they were only for the kids who had German parents, or one of them was German. So you didn't qualify for that. And that was one of the things that we were promised, so that they never delivered. And there were a lot of other things that I decided to go back. Prior to my departure to Iran, my uncle, who lived here in the United States, he came to Germany and begged me not to go to Iran. He said, "Why don't you come to U.S.?" And I said, "No, I have to go back over there and help people," and all those. I was very idealist. I thought I can change something. So, but I found out there that it was no future for my kids at all.
And this was in the 70s.
That was in 76.
And we didn't really know that there was going to be a revolution coming.
No, but you could see a lot of things were changing. People were nervous, and it was a lot of bad things. It was so bad that, actually from the Shah side, they paid some money for us for the moving from Germany to Iran. Now I decided to go back. So I wanted to give this money back. I said, this doesn't belong to me. This is something that belongs to Iran. But you won't believe, I went through different system. And anyway, I ended up donate that money to an orphanage.
In Iran?
In Iran, because everybody was laughing at me, and finally a guy said, "Why are you doing that? This is not going to go back where you want to, where that belongs to."
Meaning it's going to get in the wrong hands.
Yes. That's why I asked my mom to donate that. So we went back to, at that time, it was the 200 years anniversary of America, and it was very, very difficult to get a visa for America. But I don't know, for some reason, I went there and they gave me a visa on a passport that was only good for 3 months. They gave me a visa for 6 months. And when I mentioned that, they said, "That's okay. When you change your passport, they are going to transfer that," which they did. Anyway, I went back there and I told your father that I'm not going to go back to Iran anymore. And that I decided to go. I said, it's no future for our kids in Iran. So we decided to come to, I already had a visa. Your father went and he got it too. So we came here to United States. It wasn't easy, but still, because neither one of us could speak one word English. We could speak German and Farsi, that was all. And the worst part was for you. Now, you were so confused because we went from Germany to Iran. At that time, you were speaking only German. Now you went to Iran. You learned a little bit Farsi, and now here we are in America. You were so confused, and especially for the kids program that were there, like Sesame Street. Now you're earning and were speaking a language that you didn't know what they were saying. And so you were showing a lot of reactions, a lot of bad reactions. But, but you learned very fast English. At that time, when we came here, you were...
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten, yeah, you were 5. You were kindergarten, and I think your sister was only 10 months old when we came here.
Mm-hmm.
So we started learning not only the language, everything, because it was totally different than what we have lived in Europe. Everything was different, but still we tried, but it was very difficult to work because we didn't have a green card, we didn't have, we had a visa for 6 months. And there were a lot of things that we ended up in the hand of people who were more interested in their own interest than ours. And we went through a lot of bad things. But God was with us, and all this time we were, we survived.
Yeah.
Survived. And
do you think your marriage was healthy then?
No, it wasn't, because when I was in Iran and your father was in Germany, there were a lot of things happening there that we were unaware of. And when I found out, I thought, that's okay, maybe when we move, everything is going to be fine. So I'm not going to give up on my kids. So that's why, everything was just pushed under the carpet.
Well,
That,
the good old Iranian way.
Yeah, we weren't talking about it or anything, but it was very difficult when we came here because we couldn't speak English. It was very difficult. Luckily, I was still very young, and it was much easier for me to learn the language than your father.
Mm-hmm.
It was very difficult for him. And one thing that was very difficult was that in Germany we didn't, it was not like here that you would have babysitters, young people. When we were in Germany, we were told that we would get a green card very quickly because even though your father had 2 PhDs, I could get green card with my physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, it was very popular, apparently. RN and physical therapy was very. So this guy, a gentleman, took us to a lawyer. And the lawyer, I told him that, and he said, no, that's not true. That's not true. And so we came here with a small amount of money, not much, because everything we had, we took to Iran, and we left there. So we had, I think, about $30,000-$40,000, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have anything more. So here the lawyer charged us $10,000 right on the spot to get us green card, which we didn't know that we didn't need it. Anyway, make a long story short, it went on like that. After 6 months, in Germany, if you are not a citizen, you have to have, like here, you have to always carry your green card. You had to have your passport with you. So before the 6 months was up, I sent the passports in to immigration, and it was no answer for 2-3 weeks. And I kept calling. Now I could speak a little bit English. So, and they said the person who was involved, who would decide about that is in vacation. So I couldn't believe that. Said, how could that be that, only for one person, so you have to close down the place? So when this guy who was helping us, I told him that, he started yelling and screaming at me that, you shouldn't have called them. And so anyway, again, I started thinking, what am I doing here? If they don't want us to be here, that's okay. We are going to go back. So the next, this guy who was saying that he was helping us, he wasn't. He was only interested in the money. Later on, we found out that he would take people like us to this lawyer. They would charge people and share the money.
It was a charlatan.
Yeah, a charlatan. Anyway, the next day I was, and then he told me, you can go work. I said, I don't have a green card, or how am I going to go work? So no, it's okay. As long as you work in the same field, you're fine. So I went to University of Utah Medical Center in the physical therapy department. They hired me as a physical therapy aide. And I was working there because my lawyer said it's okay. So here I'm sitting there, and this guy, he came, a gentleman came with a suit and tie and everything. And I thought this is one of the Mormons, missionaries coming toward me. And he came and said, well, I am looking for Zora. I said, that's me. I said, who wants to know? I said, well, I am from immigration. I said, okay, that's me. What are you doing here? I said, I'm working. Do you have a permit? I said, no, but my lawyer said I could. He said, dial the number. So I dialed my lawyer's number, and he picked up, and I said, well, you told me I can work. And he said, yes, you could. You're fine. So the immigration guy said, okay, hang up. Hung up. He said, he gave me a name. He said, so how much did you pay him? I said, $10,000. He said, okay, tomorrow you go to him and say he either has to refund your money, or you are going to go to the, what is that for the lawyers? That they have something that you can take, I don't know the name right now. So that's what we did.
Like malpractice?
Yeah. No, I think if you want to...
The bar?
The bar. There you go. To the bar. So that's what we did. So your father and I, we went there and we told him that, and he said, no, I did this and this for you. And so the guy said, the immigration guy said, bring all your paperwork from Germany. If we recognize 3 schools in Germany. If you went to any of those 3, you're fine. We are going to issue a green card for you. If not, then you have to send your documentation to the center in LA. At that time, you were living in Utah, in LA, and they will tell you if you have to take any classes or anything. And then after that, you can go ahead and take the state exam, which I did. So I took everything to immigration, and they said I had to send it here. I was short on English. Everything else was more than what it was necessary here, just the English, which I did take. But because that guy called for our deportation, that helped us to get our green card. After 3 months, we had our green card.
So then you got to work.
Yeah.
And Dad got to work too.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, but unfortunately, at that time, it was first Mr. Carter and then Mr. Reagan. When Mr. Reagan came, like now, he closed down all the research program. Mm-hmm. Your dad was working for University of Utah on the microbiology department. So they closed down all the research. So he couldn't do the research anymore. So, but anyway, that's how we got our green card and everything was fine. And you were growing up here between
5 and 15.
5 and 15. It was very difficult over there in Utah because we were not Mormons, and beside that, we had dark skin. Especially you were only 5 and you started swimming. After 1 week, you went to the swim school. They called me and said, he is ready to go into the team. You were very good. You were very athletic. And so you would get dark very quickly from the sun.
Yeah.
And they were giving you bad time. They were calling you names and a lot of things. I think you were the only dark person in the whole school.
There was one other one. He was a Navajo Indian.
Yeah.
I'm friends with him to this day.
Yeah.
But they did make fun of my skin color.
Skin color, they were giving you bad time.
Because of being Iranian.
Well, at that time, nobody knew you were Iranian.
There was a couple of kids that knew, believe me. Right around the revolution.
But from what I know...
Because they called me Iranian. and they would pick on me.
Until second grade, nobody knew.
Well, I'm
that
talking
you-
about when I got older.
Yeah, until second grade, because your everything was from Germany. You and your sister, both of you guys were born in Germany, and nobody knew
So they
that
thought
you
we were German.
Everybody thought that you were German until the hostages were taken in the 80s. And for some reason, everybody knew that you were, and I don't know what was going on, if some people were hired from another state or what. They started targeting Iranian. And they didn't care if this Iranian was an adult or a kid. You were only in the second grade. You had braces in your mouth. And one day, during the time when you were, you guys didn't want us.
This was actually, the braces were when I was older.
Well, first...
12 years old. 5th or 6th grade. 7th grade. 7th grade.
Okay, but anyway, at that time, on the hostage time, they targeted you on the way to school, and they beat you up. It was so bad that by the time I was notified by Vani, the neighbor's kid, I just took you to the hospital.
Yeah, that was in junior high school. That's after the hostages. That was
no. This time was on the hostage time. I don't know if you remember. You were throwing up, and you were very.
Yeah, that was a different time I was picked on. I remember that one. I'm putting it in my book.
Anyway, that
basically I was bullied. I was bullied a lot.
Yeah, bullied from the adult and the kids, both.
Yeah.
It was not only kids in school; they were everybody. Anyway, but I was trying to, as a mother, or as much as I could, but most of the time I was the one who was putting bread and butter on the table, because your father was overqualified. He couldn't get a job. That was the sad part, that he was capable, but he couldn't get a job.
As far as your recollection goes, because Dad did start working in places, and we did move around once or twice in Utah, but recollection, when did you first start seeing me acting out that you remember?
Well, acting out was one of the worst things that happened. Was you loved your dad a lot. I mean, from the time that you were baby and crawling, I remember when he would come home, you would go and taking the house shoes to him, and then taking off his shoes. It is that much that you were very, very dependent on him. Somehow you loved him so much.
Okay.
But finally, when he got a job that was in Logan, Utah, it was not in Salt Lake City. We were living in Salt Lake City, and he was living there. It was very hard on you, and you would give me a hard time for that. Because I think you would remember the time that we went to Iran, and you thought that I was the cause of that separation. That separation was very hard on you. And now again, it is another separation, and you couldn't take it, and you would take it on me. And that's the time that I, something is wrong.
So what was I doing to act out?
A lot of bad things. A lot of things. You would pick on your sister. You would do things that you normally never did.
Like, do you remember when I was egging cars or toilet papering houses?
No. That was later on in Utah, in Logan. No, that was here in Salt Lake City. One time you would laugh. You peed in the fireplace. And that was the only time that I told your dad, and your dad started beating you up. And that's why I never said anything anymore what you did. I would just take it in, not say anything, and that was very hard. But, as long as we were in Salt Lake City, you were still okay until we moved to
Logan.
We decided, because your dad was there, and University of Utah. At that time, I was working in the burn unit. they decided to open a burn unit in the hospital, in the new hospital in Logan. And they asked me to go there and help to set that burn unit, set it up. So I went there, we moved there, and Logan was worse than Salt Lake City. You were bullied very much worse. Not only you, your sister too. And not only from the kids, from the teachers. I mean, they were very, very prejudiced toward you guys. But and then you started with the eggs and then toilet papering and everything there. Yeah. That was all in Logan.
Yeah. And I was hanging out with a kid that you didn't want me to hang out with.
Yeah. That was, that's because you had at least a few friends in Salt Lake City, our neighbors and so on. Here, we didn't have anybody. And then you started going out with the kids, that they were unfortunate.
Yeah. Now, when we moved back to Salt Lake, because we did after about a couple of years, I know you saw me get bullied by one young man that beat me up so bad. How did it make you feel when I came into the house and you were sitting there with my sister and you saw me beat up?
Well, I remember one time we were going to shop for you something. And I was sitting waiting for you because you didn't want me to give you a ride to school. You wanted to walk. And I was waiting for you, and after an hour being late, Vani brought you home. And you were all beaten up, very bad, that we ended up in the hospital. I think that was the time that your braces, they were in your face.
Caught
it in your gums. And so we went there and I asked you what happened. What you told me was that these kids, they were jealous because the girls, they were interested in you now. And I think that they wanted to vote you as a president. And the other
president of the student body. I was running for it.
Yeah, you were running for it, and they didn't like it, and they wanted to beat you up. And you told them, okay, if you have anything, if you don't like me, why don't you? What do you want from me? And they said, we want to beat you up. And you said, okay, then do it. And then you guys went behind the church.
Yeah.
They said, why don't you meet us behind the church? And you went alone. And then when you
there's more to the story, but yes.
That's how I was told. When you got there, you were alone, and they were all waiting for you. They started beating you up.
Actually, I got there first, and they came up from behind me.
Yeah.
It was one guy, but with his friends.
Yeah. They beat you up, and especially with their boot, they hit you in the face and then your mouth, and that's how that happened.
Because I was laid out cold on the ground.
Yeah, and then I think Wayne got there and then got them. I brought you home. I don't know how I wasn't there, but that made your father very mad. I remember he was so mad that he went to school and said, if anybody would touch my kids, I'm going to kill. I don't care anymore. He was very mad. That one thing that was very, very sad, but you were very active in swimming.
Basketball, baseball, sports.
Sports, you were excellent in all the sports. And I
was well on my way to the Olympics.
For swimming.
Yeah, that's what the coach told us.
Yeah.
I took state championships.
Yeah, you were state champ, even though you were too young.
No, I was old enough. I was old enough as a teenager. I remember.
On the top of that, you started dancing with Adam, who was the son of the guy that was for the New York Ballet.
Yeah.
You were dancing with him. He was blonde, white. White.
Yeah.
And you were dark.
Yeah.
And you two did
Break dancing.
break dancing. That was it was beautiful. Beautiful. You're dancing with him and everything. Everything was fine.
So let's go into. Did you have knowledge that in Utah, when I was 12, I was smoking weed or drinking, or I know we went to an Iranian wedding and I drank there and got drunk. Did you know that I was smoking weed during that time?
I think you became friend with this guy who you would go out with, and I was unaware of until I think I got a phone call from the school that you skipped school. So I found you in the mall there. I came and got you, and I told you you skipped school. Next time I'm gonna come to your school with my pajamas
and hair rollers
and hair rollers
and embarrass you in front of the entire school.
Exactly, that's what I said. From then on, you did not skip school. That I know, because I was, the thing was that one of the things was that I had to work no matter what.
Yeah, which made me a latchkey child.
Yeah. It was very...
You had to work, Dad had to work, so I had a lot of freedom.
We both had, yeah.
Now, we moved to California when I was 15.
Barely 15.
No, I remember. It was the summer.
Yeah.
Did you think moving the family was going to be a good idea, coming to California?
Well, one thing made me do that, because you guys had a prom dance or something. There was a dance in school, and it was this girl that you were interested in her, and she was very much interested in you. You even went one time with me and bought a ring.
I remember.
For that girl, and you asked her to go with you for that dance, and she said okay. She wanted to go with you.
Yeah.
And I remember that one night before the dance, I was making cupcake for you to take to school. Mm-hmm. And she came to the door. You were in your room, and she brought there was a flower and something, and a small note that says, "Sorry, I can't go with you." And that broke my heart.
Yeah, it's because her parents didn't.
Because the parents, they didn't want her to go with you, and I said, "This is it. I'm not gonna." How I came, I didn't want to stay in Iran, because I said it's no future for my kids, and here I am in a state that the prejudice is killing my kids. I'm not gonna do that anymore. And we were there already 9 years. Mm-hmm. So at that time, I said, no, I'm not going to stay. And that was the main reason why we moved.
Okay, so then we moved to California. We ended up in Costa Mesa. We all ended up in Costa Mesa. I remember it was me and Dad came first, and then you and Gila came shortly after. And we ended up renting a place, and then we got into another place, and then started going to... I want you to talk a little bit about the night that... I came home and you were sleeping or pretending like you were sleeping in my bed because I was out doing drugs. Do you remember it? Very
well. Yeah, we, like you said, we finally sold our house over there. Mm. And your father was actually the reason why we went to Costa Mesa, was that your father was hired by a pharmaceutical company. So he and you together came because it was the summertime, and I asked him to send you to summer school because schooling was very important to me. I thought that.
Yeah.
And I was there because I had to finish up something. I was there with Gila, with your sister. So then we came, and during that time, instead of sending you to summer school, your father unfortunately got you a fake ID, and you started working at McDonald's. And with that, I think you were introduced to these people who were selling, or I don't know what they were doing with drugs. So when I came, I couldn't believe it. So I didn't let you go working there anymore, but it was too late already. You have met, people who you shouldn't have. But you had a diary that you wrote your diary, and it was always there. And when kids do this and then they leave it there, that means they are seeking for help. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I started reading your diary, and I found out that you were going out. We rented a condo. It was 2 bedrooms, but it had a huge garage. And your dad made a bedroom for you, and that gave you a lot of freedom there. So we would go to sleep, because I would never go to bed before my kids, they were in bed. But you would go to bed, and then when we were asleep, you were gone. And I found out from your diary, and so one night I was just, I heard that you went. So I went to your bed and lay in your bed until you came. You were shocked.
Yeah. It was dark, and I turned on the light, and then you were there.
Yeah, you were shocked, yeah.
Now, we then moved to another part of town, which was Irvine. Yeah. And when we moved there, I know for a period of time, I remember, I was still writing it in my diary, that I decided to not do drugs because you got on my case so bad. And I also just wanted to change my life. So part of me definitely wanted to act better and do better. And I remember even like writing, I got 100 days, I'm not doing any drugs, I'm 100 days sober. But then, I was hanging out with Amir and Omid, and both of them were doing things, and they were doing the high school thing, and they were in their, we were 16, most of us were 16 years old. And so I couldn't resist. I would go to parties with them, and they would still use, and everyone was using around me, so then I used too. Now, I had a gruesome car accident that happened when I turned 17. I want you to talk about that. What happened to you when you heard that I was in a car accident that was fatal?
Mm-hmm. It was very hard. It was very hard because at that time I was already separated from your father, and I was against you having a car because you and we talked about your school, and you promised me a few things. The worst part was at that time, I didn't know. I thought changing cities or I heard a lot of good things about Irvine and schools in Irvine, and I thought, this is heaven. If we go there, everything is going to be fine, which I was wrong. I was very wrong. It doesn't matter where you are. It depends on how much time you spend with your child, quality time, which I didn't have to. At that time, I was working two jobs. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we were separated, so I was renting a small room in an apartment in Michelson, I remember.
Yeah.
And one day you came, and with this Volkswagen bug, you said, "Oh, I got my license," and I was very mad. And then I said, "Promise me you are never going to have anybody in your car, especially your sister." And you were not supposed to, because you were 17. Even though you had a license, you were not supposed to.
Uh-huh.
But at that day, I think it was raining, and you, because your sister was going riding with a bike to school, but at that day she came with you. Then because of the rainy day, you started picking up other kids. By the time you were at Michelson, They were 5-6 kids in a Volkswagen bug. And Michelson in Irvine, at that time, it didn't have those dividers that they put it now.
Yeah.
And I think that was very early in the morning. I don't know what time it was that I had a phone call that both my kids, they are in the hospital and they were in an accident. At that time, I didn't know who was driving, what was going on. So I came to the hospital and they said that you were the driver. I think Gila was injured on her knees and you had some cuts here on your face. There were, but they said that is a young man who hit the car and is in coma. I was speechless. I didn't know what to do. My niece was with me. Minu was with me. And the first thing what she said, let's go to the
scene of the
accident and see what's going on, which we did. And we took pictures. And those pictures, they were the pictures that they saved you, actually. Because everybody said that you ran the stop sign. And that wasn't true. You didn't, you were about, I don't know, you were not at the stop sign. And the screens of the car, the tire, they were showing that you were not there. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that here is a guy, dark guy, who was the driver, who had 6 kids in the car. And they thought that you guys were distracted from the radio, but later on they found out the radio wasn't working at all.
Actually, it worked, but it's okay.
But later when they
when it was in the impound, I don't think. But anyway, so it ended up being in the newspaper. They ended up taking a picture of me.
Even though you were 17 years old,
they used my name.
They used your name, and everywhere they put the stop sign. And then from there on, our house, on our garage, on our door, they were putting stop sign on it.
Yeah, pictures and things like that.
The pictures, and so
they were rude. They were putting in my lockers. So then I did start getting into more trouble during that time in my adolescent period. I obviously had this riding over my head. Then I started getting in more troubles, a lot of police interaction, and then I found my way into juvenile court. And then I went to juvenile hall. Now, when I was in there, I was in the psych portion, and there's, I don't want to go too deep into that part. I already talked about that in my own story. But I know that when I was released, I came to your house, and then sometimes I would go to Dad's house too. And
Pejman, but I don't want to skip this part because this is very important. You don't remember what has happened. What happened was that you were in an accident. You were in a shock yourself, and you were your name was in the register, which was against the law. You were only 17 years old. Yeah. With your picture, with your name. That's why they knew where we lived, and you were a lifeguard. You were a lifeguard at that time, and they were giving us bad time. We were getting a lot of bad publicity from but in school, at that time, your the principal or assistant principal, his name was Mr. Keith. And he was very, very prejudiced. Very prejudiced. They started encouraging you to get out of that school and go to the other school.
Which was a continuation school.
Continue education instead of being in school. Mm-hmm. And you decided to do that, and no matter how many times I said, don't do that, Pejman, don't do this, but you did. At that time, your sister was in the same school. So that other school that they were sending you to, that was it was a church in between you guys.
Yeah, I know.
And for the lunch hour, you would meet with your sister. Oh, and they send you to the other school, and then they said you were not allowed to come back to this school at all, which that was all against the law. But they said that, and you had this girl, I don't know what her name was, that I think she came. I don't know if you remember or not, but your friend and yourself, you said that at that time. She came toward you and you said, "Don't come." And then later on, they said that you pushed her, and that's why they took. And then they said you came to the school property. When I went to school and said he wasn't in school property, he was in church property. Yeah, but during the school time, that portion of the church belonged to school. That was what's going on. And I would like to say that because this was all under the prejudice that they did. So you ended up in juvenile hall. All our neighbors and people who you have saved their life because you were a lifeguard. You have saved their children's life. I got a petition letter. They were over 60 people who signed that you didn't do anything. And that's how I remember when the judge came and you came out because of the good behavior from the juvenile hall. And the judge came and shook your hand and thanked you. I would like you to remember those things.
I do remember them. I'm actually writing about all that. But we are only limited on so much time. Good, very good. Now, I got out. I was between your house and Dad's house for a while. I turned 18 years old. Mm-hmm. You moved to LA. Dad moved to Iran. Do you remember, did you know or were you in denial that I was on drugs?
I think I was in denials.
Okay. And then over the time that I was turning, into my young adulthood, into my 20s, did you know what type of lifestyle I was living? Or were you, because you would ask sometimes, how do you make money? I work myself like a dog from morning, noon, and night, and you don't even go to work. But how do you survive? Did you have any hint that your son was selling drugs and living a lifestyle like that?
No, you were an artist. You always drew very nicely, and you were very creative. Yeah. And then you started making the clothing line, and so. And I always thought that you were making money on that because it was actually, I think you were some money on those.
So you had no clue that I'm selling drugs?
No.
Did you have any clue that I was doing lots of drugs?
No.
Okay. But your daughter, obviously, at the time was doing drugs, and she still lived with you, my sister. And so you were dealing with her stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you moved to Orange County again, and at that point I was almost 29, 30 years old, and you got a place, and bad things were happening for me, but I wasn't telling you the truth. I was going to move in with you, and I did move in with you, and there was conditions. One is you have to work. 2 is you have to be sober. 3 is you can't have that ex-girlfriend of yours anywhere around here, all that stuff. Now, within time of living with you and living off of you, because I did get the job and in your eyes I was sober, when the police raided your house because of the activities I was involved in, did you have any idea or know how bad I was?
No, unfortunately, I was so blind that I thought, because I never did drugs, and if I said something, I would deliver or stay by my word. And I was so stupid thinking that somebody didn't know that when someone is on drugs, they can promise you, they can lie, they can steal, they can do those things. Now I know those things. I didn't know. No, I thought, just because you say, I'm not going to do this anymore, you're not going to do this anymore.
Okay, but when you sent your friend to come talk to me because you knew my life wasn't going well, and this is more like 30, 31 years old, Feridun, when he came into the garage, I remember he came and talked to me. Did you know I was on drugs then?
I didn't ask him. Maybe he came on his own.
I thought you sent him.
No, I never knew that he came and talked to you. No.
Okay. Then when the police came and raided the house, and they broke the front door open, and you came home from work and you saw that the house was wide open and it was a mess and your son is gone. What did you think? Did you think you got robbed?
Yeah.
Did you think like somebody robbed the house?
Yes. And I called you, and I called everywhere or anything, but I couldn't find you. So I didn't know what was going on. For some reason, I was so deep in denial and blind that I trusted you because you said you're not going to do it.
So you also bought me a car during that time.
Several cars.
Yeah, but that car that you bought me, the time that I was on the freeway and I cut you off with the car, and later you asked me about, what were you doing on the freeway when you were driving like that? And I said, what are you talking about? That wasn't me. And you said, no, I bought you the car. You cut me off on the freeway. Do you remember that day?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, you did so many things that I don't know. If I say yes, I am lying. No.
Well, let me tell you. When I was in juvenile hall and you came and visited me with Dad a couple of times, but you didn't come with Dad because you were separated from Dad, and you would come and sit in there, you told me, you being in here, you're innocent in this, and you don't belong here. But if you ever end up in places like this again, due to drug activity, drug using, anything, don't call me.
Yes, I said that.
So when this happened and your house was raided when I was 30, which I believe was a Friday afternoon, evening, I remember because I had court on Monday. When I was shackled between other inmates in my orange jumpsuit, and they brought me into the courtroom, and I saw you. Do you remember sitting in that courtroom looking at me?
Of course.
Do you remember what you said? Why didn't you call me? You said that. You whispered it. Why didn't you call me? And you know what I told you? Because you told me not to.
Well.
Now, then when you would come and visit me, but you wouldn't talk to me when I was behind the plexiglass and the phone. You didn't want to talk to me, but you brought Gila and you brought Aunt Betty.
They brought me.
I know.
I
Okay,
didn't
they
come
brought
because
you.
I didn't want to come.
Okay, but still, you were there telling them what to tell me, too. In that time, did you know how bad I was?
I don't know what you mean, of course.
Okay. So then when I got out, I gave you more hope because I remember you took me to the Iranian sober living, which was Siamak Afshar, who passed away, God rest his soul. Then you took me to another place, and I went there and I stayed there for a short period of time. But then I knew how to work the sober living. I knew how to work the system, the probation, the courts, and I worked my way. I knew how to work you, and I worked my way right back into your life. Then I lived with you again for a period of time up until about 34 and a half, 35 years old. I even went to the Art Institute. I screwed that up royally. You did everything in your power to try to get me to go get educated because I was artistic, like you even brought up. I crashed into a police officer's car that lived on your street, totaled his car. I was full-blown addict. I couldn't even sell drugs anymore. I was so bad. What did you do in the end when the jig was up and you knew this guy is on drugs all the way? Like there was no more denial. What did you do?
I asked you to leave. I gave you 3 days.
Where did you? What happened?
What has happened was that yes, that all happened because I was clueless. I didn't know that there is help out there. I didn't know a lot of things because at one time for your sister or for yourself, I called 45 different places to get help. And I was, you either were too old or too young, too old or too young. And the same thing was for your sister. So I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know that Al-Anon existed. I didn't know any of those things. But now you are living with me. I came to a point that I thought you were retarded. And I was telling everybody that I have a retarded child.
Because of how many times I would crash the car.
Yeah. I mean, because you weren't listening anymore. You were, when we were talking to you, like Saeed always said, I can see my words going through page 1 and hitting the wall behind him. Because it was,
And Saeed was your boyfriend at the time, yeah.
Yeah, he was living with me. And when he came, I told him that I have a retarded child. And then poor guy, a few times he asked me, he said, have you gone to any psychologist, psychiatrist, who determined that he is retarded? I said, oh, I know that. You don't. And he didn't want to say too much because he thought, he was just a guest there. Anyway, but one day he came and he showed me something. That was a glass thing. And he said, Zora, what is that? I said, I don't know. Where did you get that? He said, well, from Page 1's pocket. Page's pocket. And I said, what is that? So we Googled that. And then I said, well, I can't belong to Page 1. No, he won't do that. So I asked you and you said, well,
I loved Mom being in denial. Yeah. And when I'm in my disease of addiction, when I'm flying under the radar, of course it can't be.
Yeah.
Like a good Persian mother would.
Yeah, and you said, well, like you guys all say, it belongs to a friend, or, oh, that's from the old time. And I said, this is from the old time, and just forget it. And a week later, Saeed came, gave me another one. And he said, apparently that thing is walking from one place to another.
From one shirt pocket to another shirt pocket to another shirt pocket.
Yeah.
And getting blacker and blacker on the bottom.
Yeah, and that was a new one, because the other one I threw away.
Oh,
this was a new one you got.
Yeah, that's from old friends.
From old friends. That's another new friend. So what I did, I was going to go to South Coast Plaza. I called you and I said, Peggy, meet me at South Coast, let's have lunch. And from the way that I was speaking, you said, what's wrong, Mom? I said, just come over there, let's talk. And you said, I don't know what, but I am not as bad as you think.
When we sat down and talked.
Yeah. Anyway, you came and then you ordered food.
Yeah, because I hadn't eaten in a week.
Yeah, but you didn't touch it. I didn't give you the chance to touch it. I told you have 3 days. You either go to rehab or you just get out. 3 days. And you said, Mom, it's not as bad as you think. And I said, in my book, just thinking about it is bad. Get out. So we went home and you went to Saeed and said, I can take care of that myself. And no matter how much, he talked to you for a long time. But you said you can take care of it yourself. And I said, okay, then get out. You go out, and then if you come back, I'm going to call police on you. Just get out of my house. You had a car, so you left. And after a few weeks, and I said, if you decide to get help, then I will help you. Otherwise, no. But when you are ready, don't call me. Call Saeed. And I send you out. You went out. After a few weeks, you called and said, Mom, I am ready. And I said, I think
it was longer than a few weeks.
Yeah, I think 5 weeks.
A little bit more, a few months.
Anyway, you were out.
Yeah.
You were out. And we were not here. We were in D.C. It was your cousin's wedding, but you didn't know that I'm out of town. So you called, you said, I'm ready. And I said, I told you not to call me. Call Saeed. And you said, he's not my father. I said, I didn't say call your father.
You also told me I was dead to you.
I said, I am dead to you.
No, you said you're dead to me. I remember you said it. And I was mad because I think I had heard you were in Al-Anon, and I thought, what are they teaching you in those classes?
Yeah, the Al-Anon things was that the good thing was that your sister, even though she was, at that time I didn't know that she was, but she
said go to Al-Anon and
she
Pej
said,
should go to rehab.
Mom, that is, they are family support. And I said, what is family support? I said, this is Al-Anon. So I started Googling it and finding out what's going on.
Yeah,
And
becoming a member.
I became a member right away as soon I found out, because I was looking for that for 16 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't know.
So with all of this said, as mentioned before, when I got out of jail at 30 and we met that man Siamak Afshar at his house in Huntington, but I didn't stay. In that time, you found him again, obviously, and then I went to his house, and this time it was a treatment center, and I got my life back, and I changed my life completely. We've been through a lot now in my recovery process. I'm over 18 years sober. You got your son back. I went to school. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Siamak. I learned a lot from Shamsian. I learned a lot from Uncle Ted. All three of them have passed away.
And you taught me a lot too.
Well, now we are a part of a whole different thing. Now we are serving the Iranian, Persian community because we have a lot of Iranians that are reaching out and struggling with addiction, alcoholism, mental health in their family systems. We have a support group for them that we do on Zoom. We still have some addiction problems in our family, which all we can do is just pray for them. I want to ask you just a few questions,
Sure.
Did you ever reach a point where you lost hope, and what brought it back?
Yes, the night before I sent you out, when I found out, I just started praying, and I asked God, I said, God, please either take him and give me the strength, or if he has to be here, make him work for you, not anybody else.
What was the hardest moment as a mother watching your son battle addiction?
Every moment was hard. Every second was hard. Every second you sit there and you heard that siren from the police or the fire engine, you think it is either your son dead or he killed someone.
How did you learn the difference between helping and enabling?
Sorry?
How did you learn the difference between helping and enabling?
When I found out what the real love is, because right now in our meetings, a lot of people talk about love. So I found out that what I was doing, it was not love, it was enabling. And when I understood the tough love, and I understood to let go, it doesn't mean you don't care. That's where I found out that, the difference, yeah.
When Pej finally got sober, what was the moment you knew it was real this time?
It took me a long time to believe it, because after 16 years suffering, it took
18 years.
no 16 years that you were, in drugs.
No, I was actually on drugs for 18 years.
Oh, 18 years. Yeah.
Not trying to show off or anything, but it was more than 16 years.
Anyway,
Maybe you didn't know about a couple
yeah,
of them.
maybe my suffering was but I remember the first few times when I came to the meeting to CLMAX places, meetings, and you start talking, I was in the state of awe. Could not believe that is page one. That is page one. That I would find you half unconscious in the car or in the garage or somewhere. Could not believe it.
What would you say to other parents who are watching their child suffer an addiction right now?
Go to Al-Anon. Find yourself. See what you are doing wrong. The things that you think, everything that you do the opposite.
Well said. Do you remember the first time you slept peacefully again after years of fear?
First time was when I got to know, when you were at CLMAX, and I got to know CLMAX. So I knew you were in good hand, and I knew that God finally sent his angel in my life.
How did you keep your faith during the darkest seasons of Pej's life?
By praying.
Was there a specific moment when you realized your son had truly found his purpose?
The day that you called me and say, "Mom, do you want to attend my graduation for the drug and alcohol?" So then I knew that my prayer were answered when I asked God, "Make him work for you, only you."
What has forgiveness, both for Pej and for yourself, looked like in your journey?
Who am I to forgive? God should forgive.
If you could speak to the mother you were 25 years ago, what would you tell her now?
Cherish the time that you spend with your child. Don't worry about anything else when you are with your child. When you are spending time with your child, don't worry about anything else. Just enjoy that moment.
Okay, so this has been a great episode. I've always wanted to do this with you. I love you very, 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 very much, more than words can explain. I regret that my life gets so busy right now that I don't spend as much time as I'd like with you. I've got friends that lose their parents, and then I think to myself, you don't spend enough time with your mom or with your dad, and it's time to do that. So I'm making a pact and a commitment to be able to come see you more, considering I live so close to you. We've been through a lot. We've been through a lot when I wasn't well. I ducked and dodged for many years when I was on drugs. I didn't want you to find out because it was such a taboo in our community, in our culture. I do know that the things that always stood out about me was how much you were always in my corner, how much you always had my back. Besides the fact that I experienced a lot of racism and people were prejudiced and all those things, you were always rooting for me. You were always in my corner. I remember being in a mall doing a competition for the Prince song Kiss. I was actually lip syncing, and they were trying to pick people that were better, and you were like pushing me from behind. And I just thought, that's my mom. She's always got my back. So, you've always been that way. And we've also been at a funeral for a young man that was 18, 19 years old that overdosed. And We watched his mom gripping and grasping a portrait, a Persian mom, screaming at the top of her lungs, "I'll never have my son again." And I remember you had your hands interlocked with my fingers, and what I felt was like electricity, spiritual electricity from you, where I thought, she feels that she got her son back, as opposed to this mom that lost her son. And you're my best friend. You're my homie. Besides sponsors that I've had 3 different sponsors in the 12-step world. I can turn to you and I can ask you questions. And I know there's a lot of times that you won't want to tell me things because you think that I might think you're talking to me like a lecturing mother, but like that's not what I see it as at all. You often will even say, I'm telling you this as a friend. And that's what the best thing I believe that we've been able to have is a real genuine mother-son relationship, because A, I'm sober, and B, because we both did the work on ourselves to be able to make this work. So I'm very grateful. If any moms are out there or dads that ever want to find you, do you want to tell them how to find you on social media or how to be able to get a hold of you?
Through you.
Through me? Okay.
I just want you to know, I'm not worried about you not spending time with me, because the time that you put on service, I feel like you are with me.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, this was one of the best episodes that I ever could have, because it was with you. Any time spent with you is the best episode.
Love you.
I love you very, very, very much, Mama Ju.
Love you too.
Speechless would be an understatement. What a great, powerful episode it was to be able to speak with my mom on my podcast. I was looking at her earlier and I saw that her eyes were watering and I thought she was crying, and there was nothing to cry about because we hadn't even really talked about anything. But, looking at her and just listening to her, the way that she was speaking, and thinking about when we were all younger and how she was such a young mom trying to deal with just making it in the world and educationally in a new culture, and having these 2 young kids and trying to raise them on top of that. And she worked her butt off, like 2 jobs at a time, straight soldier, and trying to be able to provide for her kids, and also just being in a very unhealthy marriage that she really tried to make work, but realized that it just wasn't worth it anymore. And then to be able to, have her son go down such a deep, dark path, and being able to process that stuff and then watch me come into the path of recovery. And really, like, what it really came down to is she had to do the work on herself, which she did. And once she got serious about the do's and the don'ts and what she shouldn't be doing, and then the enabling, and she was able to distinguish enabling from helping, the boundaries that she made is what completely changed me and motivated me to eventually throw up the white flag and ask for true, genuine help, and then get the help that I needed. So when I say that she's my hero, she's nothing short of my hero. She's just a powerful force, great lady, lioness. I really, really, really enjoyed interviewing my mom. I love that woman so much, and I get to have a genuine relationship with her today because I worked on me, she worked on her, and we continue to work on ourselves. And so we get to have a beautiful, fantabulous relationship. I love her. So if you like this channel, Primary Purpose with Pej, we would love for you to just subscribe, to share, to comment in the comment section, and let other people know about us. I've been doing this podcast for almost a year now, and we really, really love to bring on the guests to interview. They're people from all walks of life. Some of them have had afflictions, addictions, and some of them are just people that are innovators, authors, deep thinkers, spiritual practitioners, all different types of people. Got a lot of great guests coming up soon into the new year. And until we meet again, love you.